Okay, so we just took a little break, okay? Break up the lecture, the heavy lecture, before we zoom into a little new chapter, phylogeny, okay? So we're going to review some phylogenetic trees. We already actually encountered one, the first one, when we looked at the domain, three-domain system of classification. What does a phylogeny means here in this class? Phylogeny, it's a way to diagram the history of evolution of a species or a group. Okay, it's a diagram that tells you a history, who comes from who, and many times when. Okay, it depends how detailed this phylogenetic representation wants to be. So phylogeny groups species or broader groups on the basis of shared characters or characteristics. And when we talk about characters or characteristics, you can say either way, we don't just refer to physical characteristics. We can refer to behavioral, physiological, and even molecular. As I told you, the molecular tool, molecular analysis now are revolutioning this world of phylogeny. Many times we revisit the phylogenetic trees that we have established on counting on other characteristics, and we are changing them, sometimes slightly, sometimes drastically. Sometimes we don't change them. Sometimes the phylogenetic tree that we have built, it recapitulated 100% after molecular analysis. These are examples of characters. These are just physical, okay? Is the organism multicellular? Does it have a backbone, legs, hair or fur? You know, these are all characters that we may base our classification upon our phylogenesis. So phylogenetic trees are also called evolutionary trees or cladograms, as we will see. They're all synonyms, basically. So these evolutionary trees summarize our best understanding of how evolution has worked. Evolution referring to specific group, okay? You can, as we'll see, you can make phylogenetic trees only focusing on primates, okay? You can set up phylogenetic trees of all the vertebrates. It depends how wide you want to go or narrow. It's all up to you, okay? And so these diagrams are used to visualize evolutionary patterns, trends, history. And as I told you, phylogenetic trees are hypotheses, basically, based on evidence, but they can evolve into, they can be changed and actually are being constantly changed and revised, especially regarding actually hominidae evolution. We're constantly finding new hominidae, and therefore we change the classification, we change the phylogenetic trees as we find new fossil evidence. Okay, the basic assumptions in phylogeny are that any group of organisms are related by descent from a common ancestor. As I showed you in the very first phylogenetic tree that I already showed you, the domain one, there is a relationship where from a common ancestor there is a bifurcating pattern, right? Mostly, there is always a bifurcating pattern from 1, 2, okay? And the other assumption is that changing characteristics occur in lineages over time, in groups, species, okay? Over time, we change as population, as species, we change over time, okay? And that is true for all living organisms. Okay, so again, there are many synonyms of phylogenetic tree. You can call it also phylogram. This is one example where actually wants to highlight a little bit of our history, okay? So, you know that we are very related to chimps and gorillas and, of course, other apes. Now, this particular phylogenetic tree tells you a time, that gives you a time scale starting from this point, okay, from the root, and towards the evolution of human. Who came first? Other apes, then gorillas, then chimps and human. It tells you there is a common ancestry and between humans and chimps. Of course, there is more going on in between, okay? But it tells you their chimps have more, a common ancestry directly with human rather than gorillas. So gorilla came before and then chimps after. So we're more related to chimps than gorillas. So the branch length is proportional to the amount of inferred evolutionary change. Here is another representation, okay, pretty much. It's a little bit more detailed, okay? It wants to highlight other things. So again, a phylogenetic tree, which in this case is called a cladogram. So I told you, these are all synonyms, okay? Evolutionary tree, phylogenetic tree, phylogram, cladogram, or you find all these names. I know it can be sometimes confusing, but that's all. These are all the names you're going to find. So I'm going to tell you, okay, be prepared. They're all synonyms, okay? And as I told you, here is almost like learning a little bit of a new language. Okay, so what are the parts of a phylogenetic tree? You have the tips, which are the groups, the final groups you're looking at, or you can call them taxa. Taxon, again, from Latin, means group. Taxonomy means grouping, okay? Classification, again. So you can call them taxa, you can call them groups. And the taxa could be a species, could be a broader group, okay? Again, you decide what you want to highlight there. Here there are species indicated there, okay? So the taxa, the species in this case, are at the tips, okay? The lines, these lines are called branches, as is very obvious. They're like branches of a tree. And the point at which the branch connect are called nodes. So these are nodes, okay? These are the nodes where the branch connect on the main line. This is the node. It's a point, okay? It's a node. And this one will be the root. This very first one over here will be the root, okay? So it's almost like looking at a real tree, okay? So the other thing I want to highlight here is that a grouping of an ancestor and all his descendants is known as a clade. For instance, the whole thing here, okay, this whole group that comes from this common ancestor, the root, is a clade, right? But also, each of these branch by itself is a clade, okay, by definition. We're going to do a couple of exercises on clades, okay, on identifying clades. So again, these are just definitions. I don't think they are so difficult to interpret. So many times phylogenetic trees will have details on them. For instance, in this phylogenetic tree, which is a phylogenetic tree of the group of vertebrates, right? Because it tells you from here, from the first one, from the root, vertebrates. So this is a characteristic that the whole clade will have. So they're the vertebrates, right? These are all different groups, right? They have evolved from this very common, first common ancestor. But there was a diversification, a bifurcation from this very this first common ancestor to where one group went to evolve a bony skeleton and the other didn't. But there is a shark over there. So sharks don't have bones? What do they have? They have a skeleton inside. They are invertebrates. Anybody? Do they have a skeleton? They have a skeleton, heck yes. But it's not bony, as we'll learn. It's made of cartilage. You have cartilage besides bone in your body. Point at some cartilage in your body. Or I'm going to point it to you. I'm going to pull your ears if you don't know it, right? Yeah. This is cartilage. Look at this. I'm flexing it. Flexible, right? So it's something different than bone. Bone can break. So, so there was a diversification. We will look at all these, okay? Now, one lineage stayed as non-bony skeleton, but still skeleton. And another one diversified again, okay? Where in one lineage became fish, the other developed 4 limbs, okay? So this is how, again, an example of how classification works. We will dissect all this. These are animals, right? And vertebrates, so we'll zoom into the vertebrate group much in detail, pretty much in detail, okay? Guys, please pay attention. Remember, this is your best time to learn. You'll cut your study time. You have no idea how much if you pay attention, okay? So who are the most related organisms here in this cladogram? Here, what can you tell me? I'm asking you which 2 groups are mostly related to one another, directly related to one another, according to this cladogram or phylogenetic tree. Because they have a direct common ancestor, okay? So don't just look at the fact that this is next to this one, but there is no direct common ancestry, whereas there is here and here, right? So those are the 2 groups, 1, 2, and 3, 4, okay, that are mostly related. Now we're going to exercise on this tree. This is known as the tree of life. Why? All life on Earth is over here, right? From a common ancestor, you have bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. It's just kind of like representing the eukarya domain with all its, subdivisions, some of them, okay? So this is known as the tree of life. And let me ask you a couple of questions just to do some exercise on it. Which group is most closely related to animals? Find the animals and find. Does everybody agree it's fungi? You sure? Nasha, what do you think? They have a common, okay, ancestor. So I don't just look at the fact that archaea are also close, like on the diagram, but they don't have a direct common ancestor. Yeah, so it's fungi. Okay, so let's do another one, brown algae. Ciliates. Okay, all right, so that's how we read phylogenetic. You got it. Okay, so so as I already told you, evolutionary trees, phylogenetic trees have been historically built upon morphology, looking at physical characteristics, anatomy, okay? Now, there is a problem here. If I look at a butterfly and a bat, they both have wings, okay? But those two structures, are they directly related? Do they have common ancestry? The wings of a butterfly and the wings of a bat. Sorry. First of all, let's see. What kind of animal is a bat? I just said bat. Sorry, it's just I just don't, I can't even hear the difference. It's just that. So, bat. Is a bat very related to us somehow? Very close? Why? It's a mammal, right? Whereas a butterfly is an insect, okay? So they're pretty far away. Obviously, if we go far, we're all, you know, there is some relationship, there is some common ancestry, but I'm just telling you in immediate. So you look at one and the other and say, oh, they have the same structure, wings, so they are very closely related, right? But are they really very closely related, or there is a lot of evolution, a lot of time in between the two, right? So the caveat here is that if I look at morphology, anatomy, anatomical structure, I may be very misled, right? So I have to be careful. So this phenomenon is known as convergent evolution. Evolution that converges towards evolving similar structures, but independently. Bats, as we will see, they have evolved wings independently from butterflies. It's just a structure that by chance came up to look very alike, right? And to have the same use in evolution. But it's not a structure they came because of bifurcation from common ancestry. So this phenomenon is known as convergent evolution. If you analyze the words, convergent evolution. Evolution is divergent, right? Not convergent. So this is an example of convergent evolution. Okay, so let me tell you just one more thing. When we talk about convergent evolution, these structures, they look alike, but they don't come from common ancestry. They're called analogous. Okay, you must remember this word for me. Okay, they're analogous. Okay, and we'll see what they're called if they are coming from common ancestry. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Thank you.